Okay, so out here at Roosevelt, side planers have become kind of one of the norms, and you can buy the manufactured style offshore. Seems to be a pretty popular brand. A lot of guys have them. I picked up a few not too long ago to come out here and use, and I use them on other lakes as well. They work very good. The guys that really have this fishery dialed build their own mega size side planers, kind of like the Great Lakes program that's now taken over here in Roosevelt. And you'll see them. They're big, they're bright, they're towing behind boats, and they're very effective. A lot of times when these fish are on the surface, your boat comes through, it pushes them off to the side. If you run your side planer, you get your gear off to the side of the boat, 150-foot setback, and you got a good chance at dragging your gear through those fish once they've been moved over to the side because your boat comes through. Pretty simple concept. Ideally, they're designed that you run a pole or a fishing rod that can handle the pull or the pressure against the rod by the drag of the side planer. You're going to hook it to this contact point, which is forward of the planer, and they make a left and a right. So you got to make sure you try to run the right planer on the left or right side of the boat. This is for the left side. So you got your contact point, which is forward, which allows the planer to plane away from the boat, and then you have your release portion, which is what the line hooks into, that goes to your presentation 150 feet back behind the boat. If you're using a heavier gauge rod, you can simply hook your line in this contact point, leave a little bit of slack, hook it into your release point, and you can run your planer out on a single rod. Using kokanee rods, it doesn't work real well because the kokanee rods have too much parabolic bend, they don't have a lot of backbone, and it puts a lot of pressure on that rod trying to work that side planer out there in the current. So even before I purchased manufactured side planers, I built some at home, and it's the same concept. It has a keel weight at the bottom, it has foam in it for buoyancy, and I put foam on both sides of these. Painted them a high-vis color so you can see them. You notice that the contact point of my pole is in very much the same location. And then I also have a release clip off the back of where the terminal end goes to my gear. These work well, although not as good as these in choppy water or with wind. And actually, to be honest, any of these smaller planers, when it gets pretty choppy or windy, it's pretty tough to run them, and it's more of a hassle than it's worth. So kind of gauge it based on your wind and your water. But even so, I've opted to use a different short rod. Had some broken fishing rods sitting around, and it works pretty well just to take these short stubby rods connected with braid in a clip to your contact point. This deploys out your planer with this short rod. You can see this one's running over here. So we got the rod in the rod holder. It is connected to that planer and it drags it along. The kokanee rod is hooked to the back clip, and when a fish grabs this, your planer will move back behind the boat. If the fish is big enough, it'll pop it out of the clip and they'll be on the rod. So you fight just the fish and not the planer board, okay? I don't have to reel in the planer board, unhook it, and then release the line and so that I'm fighting the fish on the rod. The planer board retrieval is separate from being able to fight the fish. More times than not, the fish, especially these bigger fish, pop it out of the clip and they're instantly on the rod and you have a good hook set, okay? So to put this out, it's simple, but also you gotta be a little bit coordinated because you're using both hands, okay? So, we set this here. This rod's already out 150 feet. So I'm gonna pull this forward, making sure I don't have a fish on there. It's been out there for a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna hook this into the clip. Grab this in the wind. Okay, both go out, and you gotta let line out on both of them. So now I'm letting line out on the planer. It's gonna go behind the boat until you pull tension. So I can stop and pull tension, and and now it's going to start drawing over to the side. I also have to let line out on the fishing rod, because if I pull tension on the fishing rod, it's going to pull the planer into behind the boat, just like if a fish was pulling tension on the back side. So it's kind of a coordinated effort here. You just simply let out line on both. You get down to the distance you want to set out your planer board. We're going to lock that in place. I'm going to set that in there. I'm letting a little slack out. I want to have a little belly, line belly behind the planer so that it's dragging in the water. That's perfectly fine. Now you'll see that planer starts moving forward. This rod, so that I don't twist it up, I'm going to lock out the spool. I just simply need to put it underneath here and set it in the rod holder. It's all about making sure that line goes down and behind the planer. I don't want it over the top of the drag line of my stubby rod, okay? So it takes a little bit of time, but once that planer board moves off to the side, it'll continue to fish just like that one over there. And we've hooked most of the fish on the planer board today. And again, I'm also using that 3/8 ounce lead about 18 inches above the Dodger. And the planer board handles that just fine. It's not like it drags it back any further than if I was flatlining. The Dodger is the thing with the biggest friction point that pulls on your planer board. So you just keep an eye on it. When a fish gets on there, if it doesn't pop it off the clip, you're going to watch that planer board move towards or behind your boat. You need to grab your rod, get under your tow mechanism, and simply reel out your slack and pop it off that rear clip, and then you're fighting the fish and not the planer board. So again, I know there's a lot of different ways to run your planer boards. You can do a direct connect to your fishing rod. Some guys use a full-length rod to put it out there, which is great. I find that these short stubby rods, if you have broken fishing rods and extra level line reels, it works pretty slick, and we've actually caught plenty of fish on them. So there you go. That's your planer board. And if you choose to, you can also make them at home on your own. There you go.